Everybody's got the right to be happy. Don't stay mad, life's not as bad as it seems.
If you keep your goal in sight, you can climb to any height.
Everybody's got the right to their dreams.
Everybody's got the right to be different.
If you wanna be different,
though at times they go to extremes.
go to extremes.
Anybody can prevail.
Everybody's free to fail.
No one can be put in jail for their
Hello and welcome to Musicals with Cheese, and today we've got an extra special bonus episode with one of my favorite people in the entire goddamn world. It's Grace Aki!
It's me. What an inspiring intro. That is so kind.
It is accurate is the other thing. Like, that's the most important thing. You are one of the coolest people in the goddamn world, and we're talking about one of the coolest musicals in the goddamn world.
Yeah, we are.
So the new Assassins production, which opened in 2022, one of the first new shows, new revivals that weren't quite on Broadway, with a lot of interesting people. We have Stephen Pasquale. Forgive me if I pronounce his name incorrectly. Pasquale. Oh, not Ale. Laura Benanti's ex-husband.
Pippa Sue's husband.
Yes, Philippa Sue's husband. That is correct. We have Ethan Slater, aka SpongeBob. Will Swenson, aka Audra McDonald's husband.
A lot of famous hubbies in this
Yeah, a lot
one.
of famous husbands. Adam Chandler Barrett.
Yeah, Adam Chandler Barrett.
I don't think he's anyone's husband yet.
Not yet.
Oh, I gotta find him. He can be perfect for me. I've heard that before.
Perfect for you. He could be ... Perfect for you.
Yeah. We'll go into this, but
Okay.
I am so glad that a new recording of Assassins exists. This is our third recording, and in the middle one, I love that recording for so long, but there was a feller in there that did some wrongdoings, and I don't like listening to his voice. So, do you not know about this?
Wait, no, and give it to me.
Do you know James Barber was arrested for 2 years for having sex with a underage girl?
I don't like that.
Yeah. So that album was very difficult to listen to. So I am very happy that we have this one.
You never have to listen to it again.
I never have to listen to it again. And I love this production. I love the orchestrations. I love everything. What is your experience with Assassins, Grace?
So I actually always avoided this. I'll be frank with you. I always avoided this one as part of the Sondheim canon when I was young because I was very scared that it was going to be scary. And I know that sounds so stupid, but like I've never been a fan of gun violence. I don't know if anybody's a fan of it, but like of gun violence itself, I don't think anyone is. But I certainly have avoided it in a lot of like films and musicals especially. So the idea that every piece of like poster art or anything that I ever saw was always like a gun was in the thing. And so I always just was like, oh, that's just one that I'm not going to take in. Like I'm just going to be a Sondheim fan and not listen to one of his most prolific pieces of art that he's ever created. I'm just going to avoid that. And then I got a little older and then I realized that it might people just kept referencing it, in life. And people always, sing the solos, and Unworthy of Your Love was always such a popular like duet song for musical theater people. And I was just like, well, okay, well, maybe I should take it in. Right. And it wasn't until I saw this classic stage production with Matt Timoney for my coworker with Broadway Radio and also friend. And we went and I was on the front row with him for that experience. And I'd never seen it live. I had listened to it. I had seen clips. And I was so incredibly moved by the production. And again, I had tickets because I love Ethan and he's such a lovely person and friend. And I was excited to see him in it 2 years ago, right before the shutdown. I had tickets. And that was a whole last name ago for me. So I and also like those tickets went IDK into the ether. I tried calling them. They're like, oh, was it under a different name? And I was like, I can't fight this. Like did someone really like take you know, the apartment and the tickets, who knows? But it was amazing for me to finally see this show that I had been waiting to see for 2+ years. Knowing that Ethan was so integral to the show, I didn't realize how much he was the show
Yes.
until seeing it, and I was crying. It was funny. I was on the very front row, like, just absolutely moved to tears by the very end. And he stood there and bowed directly in front of me. Ethan did, and did not see me. And like, we're all in masks, like we're all taking care of
Right.
ourselves. And I was cracking up because afterwards I was like tweeting about it because this is still and still in current times. I'm not like going to stage doors because I am very concerned for the safety and health of my fellow friends, actors, what have you. So it's just not something that I'm trying to promote right now. And so I was like, oh, I'll tell him later. And then I tweeted about it, and he was like, "What? You were there?" And I'm like, "You didn't see my direct eye line." Like, that is too, like, you were so in character. But yeah, no, I was just really moved by it. And so the idea that later on I would get to not only like work on the album, but I see such a future for this show. I care
Mhm.
about it deeply. And but honestly, now it's only been within this year that I was like, I think, and because of where I also come from, which I think that you'll probably like speak on as well. Like, I come from a very small town in North
Mhm.
Georgia. Marjorie Taylor Greene represents my town, unfortunately. Donald Trump's second wife is from my town. There is
There's
a
got to be at
lot.
least one good person. Oh yeah, you,
Oh, it's
you.
me. It's me and Deborah Norville, host of Inside Edition. But she, yeah. So I don't know. There might be more. J.R. Martinez, who was on Dancing with the Stars, but also is a veteran. Who you should absolutely look into his work. He's incredible. But anyways, there is something in this show that is also in Frank Rich's liner notes that is available with the album as well. Which that's not me like really plugging it. It's more so that like I encourage people to get the album so that you can read this particular
Yeah.
piece.
Physical
Um,
media.
yeah, because he just perfectly encapsulates the fact that like people have been talking about this like rumbling of people that are tired and angry for many years, in our country. And these are the people that you go, oh, where did this come from? How could like someone randomly assassinate someone, or how could someone storm the Capitol and all that stuff? And I'm like, I've been seeing these people struggling for years. I've watched them like in my hometown, and they've felt unheard. And I'm not saying that they're right, because they're obviously like very wrong in many respects. But I feel like nobody's been listening to them, and that's literally how Trump got elected.
Mhm.
So that's what a lot of this piece is about. And I appreciate that we are now in a place, I believe, where people are taking this in with different eyes and ears and hearts. And yeah, I just think this is it's such a profound piece of art. It really is.
Mhm. I think one of the biggest themes, especially on this re-listen, because I don't revisit Assassins as much as I do other Sondheim works, just because
Yeah.
of how it's structured. Do you know anything about how this was written, the show itself?
Like the source material, or like John Weidman's book, or anything like that.
All of the above. John Weidman basically wrote everything himself, and then
Yeah.
Sondheim wrote everything himself,
Yes.
and then they just came together and was like, "This works, I guess. Let's put it
Yeah.
together." And I'd be lying if you can't. It feels like it was written by two separate people at two separate instances, so it works for this piece. It would never
Yeah.
work for any other musical on the planet.
That's the thing. That's what's so crazy about it, is that like it is one of those few times where you go, yeah, the book is the book and the music is the music, and
Mhm.
they somehow work together like a daggum PB&J.
Yeah, and it's one of the most effective political musicals, among the big three that people always bring up, which is Evita,
Chess?
Assassins, Chess, and Hamilton.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like those are the ones that almost I wouldn't include Chess, because Chess doesn't really work. They've been working on it. They've been trying to get that one to work.
Have they?
And then they'll get there one day. Tim Rice is gonna keep flying that flag.
Really well.
But it's the idea that everyone is entitled to the American dream instead of everyone having the opportunity for the American dream.
Yes.
Like
Well,
it's
there's a
what
lot of entitlement
Oh
and a
yeah.
lot of it.
Yeah. I think that's very effective as the overall theme, and getting it from the point of view of these horrible quote unquote people, and then not seeing the outside world until the end when something just broke, which was a very late addition into the
Mhm.
show. I think
Yeah.
only added for the 2004 revival.
Yeah.
Um,
It was right after, if you kind of like think about, New York, especially
yeah.
post 9/11. There was that.
Yeah, and it gives, I can see why the original production didn't land as well as the revival did, because if you don't have that song, it kind of loses all the meaning of the show. It kind of
Yeah.
defeats the thesis of the show. But now we're talking about the show itself. It was like our third episode. It's not a good episode of Musicals with Cheese. Don't listen to it. Just a little thing. We were still
What a way
figuring
to
out.
sell the show. You're like, yeah, we don't know. We don't know.
It wasn't like that. Just we were still figuring out what our show was by episode 3. We'll revisit it one day, but I want to talk about this album here. What do you think the biggest difference is between this version, this new interpretation of Assassins, and all the previous versions?
I think the thing that, and especially everyone is, because I'm clocking it today as we're recording, because the album just released,
Mm-hmm.
especially on social media, is that people are so excited about the orchestrations, and I
Yeah.
think that is the real key here. Like I've talked so much about like the not only the orchestrations but also like the band and the instrumentation, and even like Ethan learning the daggum guitar, like to play on stage as a balladeer, and the way that the music, I'm such a little sucker for a folk musical. I really am. I just think that this one actually hits the like homeland feel that the
Yes.
show is actually trying to do. They actually did it this time, and I don't know if it's because Bright Star has come out and we are all inspired by Bright Star. I don't know if that's the thing, Jesse. I just know that it is that. It is because of Bright Star.
I mean, all
And then
things are due to Bright Star, the
like look
success of Broadway.
but, like, look at Swept Away coming up, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
have you listened to anything from that? Like, the Avett Brothers, there's and I know that I particularly am very addicted to this sound, but there's something to be said for the fact that, like, that is starting to move, Girl from the North Country. Like, people are really starting to understand, and even, like, post Once, like, hearing strings that way and hearing, guitar in
Hmm.
this manner, I'm just obsessed.
Well, I'm sad there's not more banjo. I think Steve Martin needs to come back, write a new banjo musical, because Bright
Listen,
Star.
if you knew Grace in when she was 18 years old, going by herself to the Memorial Auditorium in Chattanooga, Tennessee, to see Steep Canyon Rangers featuring Steve Martin on banjo, it was not Steve Martin headlining. He was just playing banjo in the Steep Canyon Rangers band. And if you've never heard the song Call the Captain, I'm plugging it now. But no, I agree with you. He needs to do another. I'll write the book. I'll say it.
Oh yeah, I think that would be the you know what? Do the banjo music to Free a Mockingbird.
Oh. Oh,
Come on.
it's been pitched.
I'd pay good money for that.
I would sell my soul because I can't financially fund that, but I would like to give my thoughts.
Oh, come on. Steve Martin has enough money. He's got
Oh
enough of
yeah,
that
he's
Selena
fine.
Gomez TV show money.
Listen, that show is special. Do you watch it?
I'm about halfway through it.
It's really cute.
It is so cute.
Can you imagine that was not that role was intended for oh gosh, what's his name from Three Musketeers and
Chevy Chase.
yeah, Chevy Chase. I don't know why I
Ew.
couldn't find Chevy Chase. But can you imagine being like, well, now it's
Yeah.
Selena Gomez?
I can see the pitch for it being Chevy Chase, and everyone's like, "Yeah, of course, that makes sense." And then it being Selena Gomez, it's like
Yeah.
Grace Aki coming on Musicals with Cheese. It's like, oh,
Ah.
that's such a brilliant choice. No one would have paired these 3 people in a room together. But
Can
when you
people
get them,
somehow fan edit all of our heads onto the cast members of that show? Because that would be absolutely perfect.
honestly, you, me, and Andrew solving mysteries together sounds like my dream scenario for retirement.
Yeah, in New York City doing a podcast. It's literally the same show.
Oh my god.
But where
Which
is Nathan Lane? To be frank, where is Nathan Lane? Because he has to appear in both.
oh, you're right. Just have Nathan Lane be Nathan Lane. Why do we have to
Yeah,
not make him Nathan Lane?
I agree. We should never we've got to stop casting Nathan Lane as characters. I respect him
Yeah.
as an actor, but respectfully, show up as Nathan Lane, sir.
Like there's got to be like do the Stan Lee thing. Every time you're in a movie, you're just you.
Yeah, and we are all okay with that.
Yeah, I love Nathan Lane. You know what? I'm gonna disagree. He should be in Assassins. Sam Bick.
Oh yeah. Which
Which
if we're gonna tie it back, Andy
Yeah.
Grotolution. Talk about it.
Oof, there's so much to talk about. I want to talk about the song structure really quick because
Go for it.
you want to just go track by track really
Yeah,
quick,
let's
see
do
what we can
that.
do. Since we are talking about an album specifically, Everybody's Got the Right, which is the opening number.
It's perfect.
These orchestrations, like I think
Yeah.
you saw my tweet yesterday where that song being put out there, and my gosh, it's smaller than usual and it works better as a smaller piece in my opinion.
Everybody's got the right to some sunshine. Everybody, not the sun, but maybe one of its beams. Rich man, poor man, black or white, pick your apple, take a bite. Everybody, just hold tight to your dreams. Everybody's got the right.
I think I think the simplicity of all of it helps the words come through, but it's also not overshadowing it. It's complementing it. It's what orchestrations are supposed to do in musicals,
Yes.
which they historically sometimes fail at.
I feel like the 2004 revival, which was the album I was the most familiar with, is still riding the Euro invasion a little bit too much, where it sounds a little too big, a little too Broadway in the classical sense.
It's a very Neil Patrick Harris moment, isn't it?
Yes,
Isn't it
yes.
funny? Like, I don't even mean to, like, he's incredible. I just, and he listens to the show.
That was a weird discovery, wasn't it?
That was an exciting discovery. And I just want to say, Neil, if you're listening, like he, especially when I saw him in Company as well, like he is such a Sondheim person. And like
Yeah.
him doing Sweeney Todd as well. Like there is, when he is involved, there is a big production of it, which makes sense. But I do like that this one is more, and this is something that's been cited in a couple of critiques, is that it's stripped down, and I don't view that as like a negative. I
No.
really like that because I'm a simple girl, and I think that it adds to the flavor of the show. It's
I
the
agree.
cracked black pepper of assassins.
That's brilliant. I don't think this should go to Broadway. I don't think this should transfer at all, unless it's going to Circle in the Square. Like that would be my only caveat. I really think that this should stay small.
And my question is, do you believe that it should stay in a round scenario if it were to move?
Yes, I tend to think that if
Mm.
you're structured for a round, stay there. Like I recently saw I think you saw too,
Oklahoma.
the
I'm
Oklahoma
glad
That
you
Fucks.
brought this up. I was just talking to someone about this. I want to hear your thoughts.
I love the production, incredible. I miss it being in the round.
Yes.
It feels so much less
Yes.
intimate, so much less emotionally connective. That isn't to say I didn't have those moments. Ali Hackham squirted beer all over my glasses and ruined my vision for Act 2. So there was some of those like audience participation moments, but nowhere near as intimate as it is at the Circle in the Square.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way about Fun Home when it started at the Circle in the
Ah,
Square and then
yes.
toured.
Because
I know,
it had a proscenium. Like
Yeah.
it had it when it was at the public, it was, straight on. And then when it moved, it developed, that, and Sam Gold, like it was a fantastic direction, right?
yeah,
And I think that when you start to tour that kind of show, especially the people that saw it before and like what you're saying now, people have just already, it's like giving somebody the best cacio e pepe that they've ever had, and then they go home and they're like, I'm gonna make cacio e pepe. And then they like make it with like macaroni or something. And you're like, well, that's not the same. And then you're like, well, yeah, no crap. Like you've already experienced all this umami. You've already experienced all of this, insight, and you can watch it 100 times and have a different experience like you do at Fun Home. And I agree with you. Like the magic of this being in a round was so good. I got to watch every actor's and musician's expressions while other people like and the movement, because there wasn't like it wasn't incredibly involved. It's not like there was a kick line, there was no dance number. It was just like, it just it felt very real. Like I was in a room with people that were bad, which is
Which
not fun.
is terrifying. And
Yes,
I
yeah.
look at a lot of those Yo Ho, I'm a Pirate bootlegs of the Assassins 2004 production,
Right.
and like it's all recorded from the balcony and it just feels like so disconnected, like you're watching it on a screen. But if you're right there, no matter what, you have to be right there. It's so much more terrifying. And as soon as you put this in the Imperial Theater or something, it's gonna lose all that magic.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. I think that people underestimate the power of that intimacy, and we've been having that discussion a lot in a lot of shows that have transferred from off Broadway or even in
Mhm.
London, and smaller houses, that when they get in these bigger Broadway houses, I know that they've got to sell. This is a business,
Yeah.
but we're losing so much of the intimate nature of a smaller show, and I wish that there was a financial way to fund these things accurately, and make sure that we're still getting that same feel.
Mhm. Um, I have to respect someone like Howard Ashman that when he was offered to take a little shop to Broadway, I was like, no, 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 this is not a Broadway show.
And he was right. He was right. When it was
Absolutely.
on Broadway, I think it was people were like, well, and I feel the same way about Hedwig. Hedwig is,
Yeah.
one of my favorite, it's probably my favorite show of all time. I have literally The Origin of Love tattooed to my rib cage. And I couldn't afford to see Neil if you're listening. But big fan.
One man performance right here on Zoom.
Right.
Come on the podcast and
please,
perform
please.
Origin of Love.
I love it, but I love the cast recording. And that's the thing, is like, it was grand and they really did do it well, because I love the Belasco Theater. They killed it. But to be honest, I do love the intimacy of it. So yeah, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. At least they added that to the text of that Hedwig production.
Yeah. Oh my
where
gosh,
they
so
took
well.
It was a very smart move, and even in the tour, that worked pretty well.
Yeah, and shout out to one of my dears, Mason Alexander Park, who toured with that company, who I
Mhm.
would die to see. I mean, they do it all the time when they're perfectly asked, but they should be headlining that show in New York again. I want
Yeah.
that this again.
Let's go back to Assassins. Let's talk the
No!
Ballad of Booth.
Yeah. Okay.
Damn my soul, if you must, let my body turn to dust. Let it mingle with the ashes of the country. Let them curse me to hell, leave it to history to tell. What I did well, and I did it for my country. Let them cry, dirty traitor, they will understand it later. The country is not what it was.
Johnny Booth was a headstrong fella. Even he believed the things he said. Some called him noble, some said yellow. What he was off his head. How could you do it, Johnny? Calling it a cause. You left a legacy.
Pasquale might be the most no-brainer casting of John Wilkes Booth I have ever heard of. Like, the last two choices were basically two men doing the same performance, which is Victor Garber and Michael Service, who tend to step into each other's roles quite often.
Right?
Are there no other bald men on Broadway?
And I'll say this, because he did pass away. Michael Service's wig consultant recently passed away. He was a big wig designer on Broadway, but he noted that he had covered his head in so many shows, and it's so funny because I agree with you. I was like thinking, wait a second, is Michael Service like the most famous bald man on Broadway that can do bald or not bald? I
Yeah.
don't know. But he is fantastic, and I am obsessed with him. And I did get to meet him at the Ant-Man 2 premiere, and I was more interested in meeting him than I was literally anybody else.
Yeah. I remember seeing Ant-Man 2 and then being like, is that fucking Michael Cerverus?
You know it was, baby.
I briefly met him after a performance of Fun Home, and he was very, very nice.
Speaking of Fun Home, though.
Oh, yeah?
Judy Kuhn.
Oh, we'll get to her. Get to her.
I'm
She's
sorry.
so incredible.
Holding my tears back.
She is so good in this. But I like his interpretation of this song. He plays it much more muted than any other version. Like Victor Garber and Michael Service are very big and theatrical with how they're doing it. and Steven tends to be much more muted. One of my favorite videos on the internet, at least it used to be before one of them turned out to not want to get vaccinated, was him singing "If I Loved You" with Laura
Mm-hmm.
Osnes.
Yeah.
And he just plays it as if he's playing it for camera, not for theater. And I think that works for that role, and it works for this one too. Much
He
smaller.
he has been in this role for many years.
Yeah.
He did this at Encores a couple of years back. That cast was also incredibly special, and he made sure that, like, when they were doing that at Classic Stage, like, he was back in that role, and he
Hmm.
was fantastic. So he's gotten to sit in that for such a long time that, if you think about it, those choices are incredibly deliberate. They're
Yes.
incredibly cited. They are and he's also incredibly, like, politically inclined. And I don't think I'm, like, speaking on behalf of or
Hmm.
anything. Like, if you look at anything that he does and what he cares about, and where he, puts his power and time into, that's part of it. And so I think there's just some very special connection, besides the fact that he has one of the best voices you've ever
Yes.
heard in your life. Everyone talks about Bridges of Madison County a million times. I'll tell you, when I was at Robert Bridegroom, I was so floored by how exciting his performance was that I went back a couple more times. He's just so fantastic. And I want to say this, he was so incredibly kind to work with. There were many times where, it's a studio, like, everybody's doing the show, and everybody was so excited to get back together, because think about it, this show closed too early.
Yes.
There were a couple of instances, unfortunately, of positive COVID cases that are just unavoidable in New York City. This is no slight to any of the actors that ended up testing positive. It just unfortunately ended the run early because they don't have we don't have the coverage. And so, getting to see this cast get together and see each other again, getting to sing a score that they love, you could just tell, like, he was definitely one of the leaders of the pack in that movement of kindness. And so I just want to say that, hearing it, it's upsetting that he's playing such a horrible person. But at the same time, like, it's so thoughtful, and it's so intentional, and it's so well executed, that Ballad of Booth that you're referring to, that is the first take.
Hmm.
And
That's
that's all you
incredible.
needed. you know? So hopefully, wink wink nod nod, you'll get to see that take later on. But yeah.
Hell yeah. I do want to say he is one of the most prolific actors as well
Yes.
as proper singers. There's this show, I mean, I don't know why I'm talking to you like I'm talking to Andrew. You know this show.
American Son?
I struggle with The Wild Party by Andrew Lippa quite
Ah,
often, but
okay.
he stepped into that on the encores,
Yeah.
and he brought new life to a very two-dimensional character in a
Hmm.
way that he does in all these things. Like, Booth, in all honesty, isn't that dimensional a character, but he plays it as if there is so much more and brings so much more to it.
Yeah.
So I'd be very interested. What would you cast him in if you, like, had carte blanche to put him in anything, a revival of anything to reinterpret?
I mean, it's hard to not think about this, because it's still out there. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like, it still hasn't been revived. So that's my first instinct. That's such a good question. I actually feel like he would also be a very good, because we're talking about it, Bruce Bechtel. In
Yes.
Fun Home, he actually might be a really interesting choice for that, even though I prefer that to be a man who identify, and I don't know his whole history, and I don't presume
Mhm.
to know anyone's sexual proclivities. But I tend to like that role to be to a person in the gay community. I don't know. That's such a good question. I need to sit on that. I might revisit it later in the show.
All right, I got a pitch for you.
Okay.
Gritty reboot of Shrek, the musical.
Okay, first of
Gritty
all,
revival of
only if
Shrek.
I'm in it. Only if I'm in it. And
Which
if I'm in
role?
it, I'm probably understudying Pippa Sue, who's playing Fiona. But I've done it before, and I will do it again. Am I not really tall enough to play the adult Fiona? Do I have to play middle Fiona? Probably. Will I actually just be cast as Gingy? You bet. But I think that's such a good take. I don't know that he would like the green makeup.
I'm thinking like minimalist, like just a headband. Like I'm thinking like
like a
really
like a
stripped
Disney
down.
bound Shrek.
No, I'm thinking like a steampunk leaning Shrek, like a really deconstructed version of Shrek where you always kind of see the people. Like I'd
If
say lean into the
somebody
darker elements.
if somebody steals this idea from you, They are smart. I think
Thank
that's
you.
brilliant. Yeah, I think that he's just one of those people that I kind of want on Broadway rotating at all times. I think that
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in this show that are like that for me.
Watch him be announced as the next Seymour.
No, come on.
No.
No.
No, that's
No.
a big no. But he does great.
It takes a lot of men to make a gun. Hundreds, many men to make a gun. Men in the mines to dig the iron, men at the mills to forge the steel, men at machines to turn the barrel, bolt the trigger, shape the wheel. It takes a lot of men to make a gun. One gun. And all you have to do is move your little finger. Move your little finger and you can change the world. Why should you be blue when you've your little finger?
The gun song. This one is
Yeah.
super special in this album to me because it is not led by a pedophile. But I love this song. It's probably one of Sondheim's most gorgeous numbers ever. And it's about
Yes.
guns and violence and how they can literally change the world.
Literally this and like these are my friends, see how they glisten. Like,
Mhm.
you can side by side these songs about people killing devices, Sweeney Todd and this. And I love that without even seeing any of the items, without seeing a person, this song makes you visualize every feeling that must come with the power that weapons wield. And I think that that's what's so eerie about this song. And like it sends shivers when you listen to it. You're like, oh,
Mhm.
it's so gross, but it's also really good.
Mhm. Now let's talk about Judy Kuhn, who does appear in
Oh,
this song very briefly and interprets those lines that are goofy and
put her in a comedy. I want to
yes.
see Judy Kuhn's meme. I I didn't think about the fact that she was funny ever, which I should give everybody the benefit of the doubt that everybody has the right to be funny, but a lot of people, guess what? I hate to tell you this, they're not, and they think they are. But this woman, my goodness, when I saw her shooting at a daggum KFC bucket on stage, I was losing my marbles. It was so funny.
um Agreed. And in the album she comes across very well, but she's playing it much less broadly. I feel like she's playing it more honest, which makes the joke land better than
Yeah.
other
She's a
wonderful people
fiddly
that did
old
it.
woman. Like, she is not. I'm saying,
No.
like, the character, like, she's like, oh, like, playing with a gun, a thing that, like, I don't know, murders people.
Yeah.
Like, it's sad to say it was funny because it's a weird way to put it, but it was funny.
I mean, dark comedy is like the bread and butter of this show.
Mm.
While we're talking about Judy Kuhn, and she brings comedy to a lot of roles that don't always seem like it needs it in the first place. Like, have you
Yeah.
seen any of her performance in Passion as Fosca?
So, I'll tell you this, Robbie Rizal, friend of the pod,
Yes.
my dear, dear, refers to her as Foscahontas, which is the funniest thing that I've ever heard in my life. Like, I'm not gonna pretend like that is his joke, and it should stay his joke. But no, I've not seen her. No.
Okay, everyone else, from Patti LuPone to Donna Murphy to
Yes.
everyone, really plays up the melodrama, where
Mhm.
Judy Kuhn leans into the ridiculousness of it all, like of what Fosca's doing. She's playing it much more modern, much more tongue in cheek in a way that
Yeah.
almost makes it sadder when it falls away. So she brings a lot of humor in that side, and we're gonna talk a lot about Fun Home today. It turns out in Fun Home, in
Yeah.
one of the most tragic roles in that show,
Yeah.
she deadpans some of the
Yes.
funniest lines in that show and does not get enough credit for how funny she is. Because I've seen other people play that role and they just are like, I'm sad, and they're removing the cynicism that Judy Kuhn brought to it.
She because I think that what's so funny about it is that, like, you're watching a woman who is exhausted.
Mhm.
Like, she has to keep up appearances. And let me tell you, it's exhausting. And, like, she understands that like dry sense of humor that I think that people have to adapt when you are in that was an abusive marriage. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I really appreciated that performance. And I'll tell you quickly a little story about when I was so I got to be in the studio room a couple of times while they were recording, even though like, you know, we're very protective,
Yeah.
mask of everybody, COVID testing the day of, especially. And so I was in the room and they were recording the gun song, I should say. In Sondheim's libretto, it's gun song. And then in one album, it's called the gun song, which is totally strange. But it is called gun song.
I'm sure he was real unhappy about that. Wrote a strongly worded letter.
It's I wish we had the letter. No, I don't know.
Go
I
to
mean,
the
he has to
Sondheim
sign off
letters
on everything.
Instagram.
But yeah, like so I was in the room and I'm watching them go through the song and it's like chilling, right? And then we get
Mhm.
to her part and she's cracking me up and I'm so scared I'm gonna laugh. And then I'm listening to her and this weird feeling comes over my body and I started crying. And famously I'm emotional, but I was like, why am I crying? Like I actually could not figure it out. And I like walked out of the room after the take. And then I realized like my mother is so closely associated with Judy's voice in my head because I grew up listening to the Pocahontas soundtrack in the car
Yeah.
every single day, like for the first like 5 years of my life or something. Like it was every day we would flip over the tape and we would listen to it and we would sing along with it. And when I saw Fun Home, I saw so much of my mother in her that I also associate the Fun Home album and Judy's songs with my mother. And so hearing Judy literally singing live in front of me on this thing and like my mother's sense of dry humor, I just miss my mom so much. I haven't seen her in a couple of months. But even then, like it's just been, you know, it's been so hard. And so it was just so insane to me that hearing her voice would like trigger a memory. And I was like, and I walked out and I think it was Robbie or someone else that was there that was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I just miss my mom." Listening to the gun song being like, "I miss my mom." So yeah, it was just absolutely strange, but that's the power that voices have over us, especially when we've grown up with cast recordings, and it's just what happens.
Mhm. That story just touched my heart
I'm sorry.
to my soul, and thank you for sharing that. That
Yeah.
really meant a lot. I really appreciated that. Yeah, hard agree on all of that. Let's move on to Cholgosh. This song.
I'm told that in his spare time he enjoys collecting coins.
Cholgosh, angry man, said, I will do what a poor man can. Yes, and there's nowhere more fitting than in the Temple of Music by the Tower of Light, between the Fountain of Abundance and the Court of Lilies at the Great Pan American Exposition in Buffalo. In Buffalo. Wrapped in a handkerchief round his gun, said nothing wrong about what I'd done. Some men have everything and some have none. That's by design. The idea wasn't mine alone, but mine, and that's a sign. In the USA, you can have your say, you can set your goals and seize the day. You've been given the freedom to work your way to the head of the line. To the head of the line.
Nobody can get it like Brandon Uranowitz. I'll just say that. Like
No.
Brandon, and I've said this before, so apologies if this sounds weird, but like Brandon can get it. I've seen him in so many shows, like falsettos. He carries this energy and confidence and like direct execution of character that again, he's just one of those people where you're like, you need to be in everything. You execute scenes so well. You are such a good scene partner. And like, I appreciate this number from him very much.
Yeah, he does. He plays it with a lot of empathy in a way that a lot of people just kind of lean into the goofy side of it because inherently it is kind of silly. But I think jokes land better if you play them dead straight. And you just kind of laugh at the absurdity of it. That's why things like Roger Rabbit work so well, is the fact that you're playing it dead straight, despite the fact that it is kind of.
Are you saying that Roger Rabbit is similar to Assassins? Because I want that to be the pull quote.
Yes, it is. Robbie, put that on the album.
Good.
Credit it to me. Make that a byline or something. Brandon Uranowitz is one of those actors who I think is going to transfer to film very soon in a very big way. Like even remember in Fosse Verdon where he has like a tiny part playing Dustin Hoffman,
You know
like
who else is in Fosse Verdon?
Ethan Slater.
Yeah.
Everything's connected in the theater world. But he just has a screen magnetism
Yeah.
to him, and I think as much as I love everyone in the falsettos pro shot,
Falsetto land, if you will. Yes.
he is very much like the one that the camera loves the most in that pro shot. As
Yeah.
I know that Christian Borle and Stephanie J. Block have all like done their film and TV roles, but the camera loves Brandon Uranowitz there.
Yeah, he's really really stellar. Yeah, Andrew Reynolds. I mean, it's a star-studded cast. I want to shout this out. Anthony
Mhm.
Rosenthal, friend of mine, and also his mom. Like,
Mhm.
he's so good, and he was on a podcast recently talking about that experience because he's now an adult man.
Yeah,
That's
he's a
what's
grown.
insane. I'm like, I knew this kid like doing Newsies. He's one of the little Lesses,
Yeah.
and now he's an adult man. But no, we love falsettos. Anyways.
Fun fact, since you brought up Anthony's mom,
Yeah.
she is one of the first people to leave a review on the Musicals with Cheese Apple iTunes page. She used the name Tiffany Axelrod, and she was just like, they did a very sweet episode about falsettos, and I liked how they all gave a chance for each other to say their own opinions. And I was like, this is so cute. I love it.
I love her. Yeah.
So I will always hold her in my heart, that person I have never met, who gave our podcast a listen back when we had like 3 fans. That was very, very kind of her.
Pure.
Very pure. And Anthony, heard nothing but good things about him. He's gonna be a very, very big star one day if he isn't already.
Sweet
But
boy.
speaking of very sweet, Unworthy of Your Love, one of my favorite Sondheim ballads of all time. Very funny song in context, very cute song out of context.
Yeah.
I would come take you from your life.
I would come take you from yourself.
You would be queen to me, not wife.
I would crawl belly deep through hell.
Baby, I die for you.
Baby, I die for you.
Even though I will always know I am unworthy of your love. Johnny, darling, let me prove worthy of your love. I'll find a way to earn your love. Wait and see. Then you will turn your love to me.
And when you're listening to it and you haven't seen the show or anything, you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know who Jody is, and I don't know, who any of these
Charlie
people
is.
Charlie is, but I'm sure that they're, sweet doting partners. And they are each other. And they are both unaware of these people's admirations and love. Charlie probably is very aware of hers. But Jodie Foster is unaware of this song's existence, probably. Not now, but then.
Yeah. Fun fact, John Hinckley has been released from prison and now uploads a lot of YouTube videos of him singing songs. He has like court mandated that he has to submit his internet history to the courts and all that, but he's still posting these fucking terrible songs on the internet. He's literally, nothing has changed, and he gives the vibe exactly how John Weidman wrote this book. Like,
Perfect.
I feel like he was not far off the mark here.
Isn't it so strange? And I'll just say this quickly, like that we forget these are real people. And that's what I think we need to like remember a lot of times with this. These are real people that apparently also are still alive.
Yep. Squeaky's still alive.
Right.
Out walking the streets. She could be listening to this podcast right now. How you doing, Squeaky?
She's not.
I think she might be. I think she might be. Squeaky,
Fair.
if you're listening, leave an iTunes review.
Leave an iTunes review.
I wonder if these people that are still alive have heard this musical and heard how they're portrayed in the show.
I don't know. There's this weird thing about like, and I've touched on this briefly, like especially on Twitter about like, people that have been in really exploitative environments, especially like where I'm particularly talking about right now with like the Kim Ye of it all and like Pam Anderson, which is kind of a different thing, but more so to say that like once it's out of your hands, your life is out of your hands and people make art from your story, it's wild. You know, so I can't imagine how that feels. I hope that never happens to me. And I just yeah, so I'm curious too. I wonder if they have experienced any of this. Who knows?
Yeah. Very interesting. I will say I have not seen the full show. I've not seen this production. It is interesting that they both come off very normal in this song.
Yes.
How is that shown in the stage show proper? How are they portrayed in the stage show?
It's definitely up to actors' interpretation,
Mhm.
absolutely. But I will say that I think that not to, I think that the term to humanize them is incorrect. But you know, they are trying to say like these are real people walking among us. You
Right.
might be one of them, and they are. Some of them are really eccentric. You know, Tavi's interpretation of Squeaky in sometimes was like very bug-eyed and like crazed in moments, but then also like demure, or like kind of more reserved in some stances. And it was Adams, like John Hinckley was charismatic in points, like it's just like all of us have all range. And
Mhm.
I think that is what's kind of cool about it, is that they're kind of normalized, like they're human people. Gateau, Kukaluku. Will Swinson, you got, like, sir, you were unhinged and it was hot and awesome. But yeah, it just depends. I think it depends on that director.
Mhm. It's just an interesting choice. Not a bad or a
Yeah,
good thing. It's just like this is different from the way I'm used to hearing it. I was and
right?
I Adam seems very very cute for John Hinckley. Like as weird as that
Yeah.
sounds, he seems like his voice sounds a little bit boy bandish in a way. Um,
He and there was a great article. I don't know if it was Juan Ramirez who wrote it, or I can't remember, but it was about how like Adam Chandler Brat's voice shaped a generation of musical theater guys.
yes.
And it's so accurately put. It's a great article. I should just send it to you anyway so that you can have it in the, show notes or whatever. But yeah, it's that's exactly what it is. He's perfect.
Perfect for me. He could be perfect for me. While we're talking about new albums, can we please get a new album of Next to Normal? I
Yes.
don't even need a revival at this point. Just do a new
Well,
album.
that revival might be coming.
Yeah.
They did the Kennedy Center, and I would like to see Brandon Victor Dixon in the dad role.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I think that would be fantastic. And Rachel Bay Jones as well. Like, I think it should have another go. It should have another album. You
Mhm.
didn't like the first one, or the only one that's out?
Things have changed in the world.
Whatever could you
Um,
be talking about? I'm joking. No, I totally hear you. I think it's also time for a cast that has a little bit more
difference in
diversity,
vocals.
or just like a BIPOC cast. I would really appreciate mental illness is not limited to a privileged white experience.
Yeah.
So I think that yeah, it would be nice.
I
It would
I
be nice.
also have this might be an unpopular opinion. I think the ending needs some revision. It has a very kind of don't get help, don't get medicated. They're just out to hurt you message at the end that feels a little more hollow
I think
now.
that's the thing. I think now is the key word. I think we know so much more than we did.
Yes.
And I think that we have had more experiences. We have social media more so than we did back then. And so I think that there's no question that the writers would probably have a new lens on it. Any director would have a new lens on it. So yeah, I don't think that that's a hot take. I think that's just accurate.
Yeah, so I think that's one of many reasons why we need a revival of Next to Normal.
Yeah.
Also, I would be very interested to see if Natalie, it's a very specific thing that character's going through,
Mhm.
and this isn't my experience, but imagine if she was a person of a different race, an adopted child, instead of another born, so that disconnect from her mother from the one quote unquote born child that didn't work out.
Right.
That could add a new layer of dimension and diversity to that cast. Also, I would love it if the dad and the son had voices that sounded different from each other.
Yeah, that's fair. You know who really brought it as the dad? Our boy Shrek.
Yeah. Stephen
Speaking of Shrek,
Pasquale.
Stephen Pasquale, he was doing it. He should. Oh, you know who would? He would kill it. He
Mhm.
would kill it.
Wow, that you know what? Put him as the doctor. Bring some new dimension to the doctor character there,
Yeah,
because I don't want Brandon Victor Dixon to not be in that role. Come on.
yeah, Daddy D. He can't lose that role. We love him.
Yeah, or there's a lot. Audra McDonald as the Doctor. Come on.
She would. I can't. She's just so hot. She's so good, and she's busy with the Gilded Age, as is most of the cast of anything.
That's part of the reason why I'm conflicted on the Gilded Age. Like, yeah, you're all getting work, but it also means, oh no, you guys probably can't do that many shows now.
They've already filmed it. They're fine.
I mean, they get renewed for another season.
Yeah. My friend Taylor Richardson is the like Irish one of the housekeepers, the young one that's like not in
Right.
love but in love with the boy. She's really, really sweet, and I'm glad that she has more work.
Yes, very glad everyone has more work, but also do Bright Star 2. Come on.
Bright Star 2, Electric Boogaloo. I'm ready.
All right, next song. Let's go. This one is the Ballad of Gateau.
I am a calling to the Lord.
Look on the bright side, not on the sad side. Inside the bad side, something's good. This is your golden opportunity. You've been a preacher.
Yes, I have.
You've been an author.
Yes, I have.
You've been a killer.
Yes, I have.
You could be an angel.
Yes, I could.
Just wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow they'll all climb aboard. What if you never got to be president? You'll be remembered. Look on the bright side. Trust in tomorrow and the Lord.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the productions of Assassins done by little children?
No. What are you talking about?
There is a YouTube video of like 5th graders performing Assassins.
It's the funniest thing I've ever heard in
These
my life.
assassins get hung or electrocuted. It is the funniest thing on the planet. And
Yeah.
I have watched these like moments. Like, I can't watch the whole thing because it's children doing something really messed up. But watching a child get electrocuted or hung in a way that's like actually stagecrafted to be that way, it's the weirdest thing in the world. Highly recommended. This song reminded me of that, where I'm just seeing like these children try to portray these horrible, horrible things that happened, and look on the bright side, look on the bright side, and look on the bright side of the Lord.
Yeah, it's very funny, but it's also like, Jesus Christ.
This is the one time, I think it's only been one of 3 times that Sondheim has ever used someone else's lyrics.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Because this is Gateau wrote these lyrics and asked for a choir to sing them on his execution day.
Wild and bold.
I think the song's well done. How is it staged, out of curiosity?
I don't perfectly remember it. I'm pretty sure that he was. I think from where I was sitting, he was upstage right. Or no, upstage left. Anyways, but he was very sing-songy, and Will Swinson is such a presence.
Yes.
The way he commanded that stage, and it was more of a runway, to be frank with you. The stage wasn't like a stage where it was like kind of like a square shape. The Classic Stage Company, it was more of like a runway. So he was walking down this like striped to look like the American flag runway, and so it felt like a parade, like he was parading himself. And it was really funny. So, yeah, I just want to say it, I know he's very busy. He's about to do the Neil Diamond musical, which is crazy exciting. I'm very, very curious about it. But yeah, it's just it was such a silly moment performance and also like Ethan is down front on this as the balladeer in this moment, kind of leading the musicians. A lot of the musicians paraded in like a little marching band kind of, which like took me back, behind characters as they were singing in a line, which was really silly. It was kind of like honestly, like we were parading around a hero. You know what I mean? I don't know if that was the total intent of John Doyle, but it looked like every time these assassins would have these moments, and then the band would like follow in behind and kind of like tooting their own horn and playing the flute and all this stuff. It looked like a hero's welcome, which is chilling to think about.
Incredible. Thank you. Let's talk about another national anthem, which is basically the thesis statement of the show.
Yes. Yeah. That's it.
There are those who love regretting. There are those who like extremes. There are those who thrive on chaos and despair. There are those who keep forgetting that the country's built on dreams.
People listen.
And the mailman won the lottery.
They may not want to hear it, but they listen once they think it's gonna stop again.
And the usherette's a rock star.
Though they may not understand all the words, all the same they hear the music.
They hear the scream.
I've got news.
They hear the sobs, they hear the drums.
You forgot about the country.
The muffled drums, the muffled dreams.
So it's now forgotten you.
I love this song, and everyone flipping nails this tune. I will say that the best person to ever sing it is Sondheim, just at the piano in those classic MTI videos he's saying.
Right? They're so good. Those videos, I'm so glad that we have a lot of those, and especially like the master classes that he would teach with students in like the 70s and stuff. And he always talked about if he could have been anything else, he would have been a teacher. He loved teaching. He loved teaching his own texts. He loved listening to people, even the people that like you could tell like some students like weren't singing this perfectly, or
Right.
they're not Broadway like they weren't professional musical theater students often or whatever, but he would approach it with so much care. And so like getting to see him sing those songs, and especially this one, it was, you could see where the passion was, and like where the through line was for him, and like where he wanted the emphasis. And I think that this cast also perfectly encapsulated all of that.
I will say it has permeated the culture of like our generation in different ways too.
Uh-huh.
So the album released today. I saw one tweet today. I don't want to say anyone, but they.
About Ethan's dump truck ass.
I mean, that's always the case. That's always what's on my
By the
mind.
way, I just want to be clear. That's not something that I am saying is true. I'm saying that someone tweeted about that, and it was absolutely funny, but also strange. And why did you do that, person?
You know what? I'll say it as an absolute fact. His dump
Okay.
truck ass.
Yeah, they were all in
Um,
those like jumpsuits, and I get it.
But the thing I read today, like, are you aware of the musical Twisted?
No.
Star Kid did this musical about
Oh,
like
okay.
Jafar being like a really good guy. Then all the Disney villains come out and start chanting about like, "Come on, you got to make it right for us, dude!" And it's literally an homage to Assassins.
Oh,
To try.
nice.
But I just saw a tweet today that said, "Oh my God, this Assassins ripped off Twisted,"
Oh, that's really funny.
and I'm like, "Oh no, oh no."
They don't know. It's one of those, who's gonna tell them?
Yeah,
It's
like,
it's a TikTok. Who gonna tell them?
so no matter what, Sondheim's integrated like references all the way up until like the next 4 generations, and
Yeah.
it sucks that we're talking about a show and a revival after he's gone. I think this is the first
Yeah.
time I've properly done it aside from West Side Story, the movie, which I don't think counts. That don't count.
I'll tell you this. We as in like, Broadway Records, and
Right.
this isn't something that we've like paraded for a couple for many reasons. Because it's no. But Sondheim really loved this production.
Yeah.
He found it to be really special. That's like a consensus from a lot of people involved. But 3 days before he unfortunately left us all, uh, he put the green light on this album. He wanted it preserved, and so knowing that this cast and knowing that this production very particularly spoke to him in a way that said, yes, I want a third iteration of this recording because this cast is wonderful. And I want to say that because people should know that this is being handled with so much love and care, like, working with his estate and his Rick Pappas, who his attorney, who's absolutely incredible. Like it's really special. You know what I mean? It's not just we thought, we want another one. Like it's not that at all. And if you look at the other recordings on the cover, it's like really funky for me
Yeah.
imagery that kind of has nothing to say about it. No shade to any of those artists. I just don't think that it particularly shows you what that production was. And I appreciate that both of them are kind of like sans guns.
Yeah.
Even though like one is like making like a hand motion and to the gun. That's the 2004 one, right?
Yeah. And that was a request, a post 9/11 request.
Yeah, which absolutely respect and love, because as a person who also doesn't like that, great. With this one, I remember we were toying around with a bunch of ideas, but I just kept hammering home that like the reason this production is special is the people involved, the
Hmm.
orchestrations, the band members, the cast members, everything. It was very important to me and so many other people that the cast was on the cover. And you never know, honestly, because the recording was after the show had closed, right? We
Right.
weren't sure that everybody was going to be available. So we weren't, those things happen, right? Like some people book movies, some people book TV shows, some people book other shows, and they're not able to be on the cast recording of a show that they were involved in, and
Hmm.
there's all this other stuff, that has to go into it. It's not just a cut and dry, we're making a cast album, hope everybody shows up. Like there's agents and all these things that you have to deal with. And so the idea that somebody might not be in it, and I'm not speaking to any particular thing, like I'm not trying to like tiptoe around something, but we might have not been able to use that great Julieta Cervantes photo from the production, but I was just like absolutely praying every single day that every person would sign on so that we could use it, because I want everyone to point and say that production, that's the one that I love.
Yeah.
I love seeing that like Ethan is in like the forefront of that. He just so perfectly carries that show. And so and just like, yeah, getting to see everybody, and like Andy Gradelucian in that ridiculous Santa outfit, like him as Sam Bick, and hearing him in the album. So I know that leads into your next thing, and I wanted to say that is part of the importance for me, and especially like in marketing and stuff. Like I
Yeah.
want the imagery to match the product. I want it to reflect that tone.
Hmm. I agree, and I think the I was about to bring up the cast album artwork is incredible, and I think it's
Yeah.
very effective. And I'm not usually one that prefers like a picture over a design, but
Yeah.
this works.
Well, Robbie's incredible at both, and I think that he married it so well. And
Mhm.
if you look at the booklet that's when you buy the album, and of course there's going to be a physical that comes out. This is, I mean, it's my job to promote physical CDs. This is one that I will absolutely treasure
Yeah.
forever, physically owning, even though I do not currently own a CD player. I just, that's one that you're going to want to keep, the way he
Mhm.
laid it out. Also, throwing it out there because he texted me the day that he did it. My particular credit, yeah, because I'm gonna brush my shoulders off. My credit is next to the Judy Kuhn KFC bucket photo with Tavi Gevinson, and that just sent me. I was like, oh my god. But again, like Julieta's photographs are so perfect, and the way that they're woven into Robbie's design, and the way that it's just a gorgeous layout. I'm glad that people are talking about it because I've seen them do it, but I just want to say that again, that it takes an absolute village to create all these things. So whenever people talk about loving a cast recording, get specific, because people really work really hard to make that happen.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Any talks of a vinyl version of it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question that that is an absolute talk. You can keep this in because I want to say this. Every time people talk about a vinyl production, there's no way that that conversation's not already been had, first of all. Second of
Fantastic.
all, vinyl production across the world is backed up almost 8 months.
My
Vinyl has
God.
become so popular, and it has been not popular for so very long, that we do not have the resources to actually source vinyl quickly right now, because there's such an influx of need and not a lot of ability to create it.
Resources and all that.
Yeah, so of course we want that, but that's not something that can happen instantaneously. I don't know when that'll change, but it's been that way for about 2 years. Vinyl has been extremely hard to source. So I love everyone's enthusiasm about it with every cast album and every album. I just got a Phoebe Bridgers album that I ordered over a year ago. Like that should tell you everything. So yeah, we're absolutely excited about that. But it is the truth that it's hard to get right now because it's
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, because that gets me excited.
Me too.
Yeah, I love vinyls because I always get tempted to skip songs when I listen to a CD or an MP3 just because I'm impatient and newfangled.
Yeah.
So having the inability and just being able to lose myself into a recording, that is the joy of vinyls, and I love it. But let's move on. Okay, but hold on. We got to talk about the Sam Bick in the room, or the Sam
Yeah.
Bick not in the room.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I was really a little sad about in this album. In the last album we had all those wonderful monologues in there, and this one we didn't. Why was that?
Andy Gradelucian's performance was so good, so well constructed. He's again done this role before. He has Fiasco Theater Company. And there's going to be something that comes out really soon. Maybe around the time of this release as well. I don't know. That you can see Andy talk about the show. Andy plays Sam Bick,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, this album it's a tight album. There's only like 11 tracks,
Yes.
and a lot of time/money goes into each track, and so the availability of everything mixed with like each like it studio time plus like the track itself, like that's like another 10 grand or whatever it is. Like there's a lot that goes into each one. So it's I've learned a lot about like why isn't this track on there or why is it not? And the conversation is like so much bigger, which I didn't realize. Like I don't fault anybody for asking it that way.
Right.
Because I had no idea myself. So yeah, the short answer is I don't know, man. I wish it was there too. But but yeah, it's basically maybe later, down the line, that's something that like could be added as a bonus or something if we were
Yeah.
able to like get more going there. But it's yeah, it's definitely one part that I would love to get to have on there for sure.
Mhm. And I will say, for an argument, this is much more like shuffleable and a classic Broadway album than
Yeah,
the
right?
last one. The argument can be made. I was just wondering if there was an actual reason.
Nah.
You can close the New York Stock Exchange.
Shut down the schools in Indonesia.
In Florence, Italy, a woman will leap from the Duomo, clutching a picture of your victim and cursing your name.
Your wife will weep.
His wife will weep.
The world will weep.
Grief beyond imagining.
Despair.
The death of innocence and hope.
The bitter burdens which you bear.
The bitter truths you carry in your heart.
And share them with the world.
You have the power of Pandora's box, Lee. Open it.
I envy you.
We're your family.
Admire you.
I respect you.
Make us
I
proud
envy
of
We're
you.
your family.
We're depending on you.
We're your family. Make them listen to us. We've been waiting for you. Make them respect you. We're your family. Make us proud of you. All you have to do is squeeze your little finger, squeeze your little finger. You can change the world.
So let's talk about, speaking of no real reason, November 22nd, 1963, which is a changed title from the other productions because other albums call this Take a Look-ly, which is interesting.
Yeah, we have to like reference especially like Sondheim's like original texts and his books and all that stuff. Like there's a lot of like thought and care, especially now. This is like the first one since his passing.
Yes.
So consulting his estate, his attorney, his John, like everyone involved is part of the naming of the correct titles. So yeah, this one after a couple of conversations and like looking at old books, like that was the title that we went with.
Interesting choice. I love the scene. I think it's really well performed. Even for an album, which I do tend to think quite often with albums when they're performing a scene, it does feel staged in a way that it doesn't on stage. It feels a little bit awkward because they're all in different booths just trying their best to audiobook their way through it. This felt so natural. It could have been like a live recording of the stage show.
Right?
I was very, very impressed by this one.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's to me that's the proof, right? That it's a good cast recording is like if you feel like you're there, because that's what people want to be able to take home with them, especially if they did not get to see the production. They want to feel like they're watching it.
I love I love Ethan so much. I love him a lot.
Yeah.
There was a good chunk of this album where I couldn't get the SpongeBob out of my head. I couldn't stop hearing the
He
SpongeBob.
has such a bright tone that like it's so solidified with that for a lot of us. But I'm kind of excited and glad that there's now a cast recording of his voice or his voice as these characters. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because we're finally getting to hear him. And I will also plug this his Edge of the World album with Norbert Leo Butz. That he co-wrote with Nick Blaemeyer, with starring Lily Cooper, sister of Eddie Cooper, who plays the proprietor on this album. Look at all that. It's a tight family in New York City theater.
I just
But
saw her father in
Chuck.
Ann Arbor. He played Tevye.
Oh my
Very
God.
It was incredible.
Oh man, that's wild.
I know.
That's very cool. But if you listen to him on there, it was like, oh cool, I can hear you. Like you're a songwriter. Like you
Mhm.
have your own voice. And so I love that album so much. If you've not already listened to it, it's a wonderful concept recording that I hope continues to get more love. But yeah, this one to me, I was just like, yeah, we're in another era of Ethan's voice and his stake in musical theater now does not
Exactly.
have to just be associated with that Tony nominated should have won performance.
Agreed. This was the moment the SpongeBob left, and it was just
Yeah.
the character, and it was brilliant, and I felt it in like how everything, like it just faded away. Like, all right, new age for Ethan Slater. What's next?
Yes.
What do you think would be next for Ethan? What do you? I
Well,
know
he's
you're
currently in a
close.
show in Chicago right now. He's in a play with Sean Hayes.
Ooh.
So I'm like, okay, play. I want this to be the next thing, but he can. I don't know. He's such a comedian. I'll say this: he's such a comedian that like he has such a close tie to Buster Keaton. And I think that if there's an adaptation of something of his work, that would be an incredible vehicle for him. Revive Chaplin with him. I don't give a shit. Like, he's just, he's so good. I want to see him shine in something where you get to see all of his tricks. And we saw a lot of them in SpongeBob, but I think that there's more to go. And also some introspection. Like he's a brilliant actor. That's what we got to
Mhm.
see in this show. So yeah, people, especially the critics, they like fell in love with it. And I was like, yeah, sorry, did you sleep on him 5 years ago?
I will say he's incredible in SpongeBob.
Yeah,
Like that
he is.
is like who did he lose to? I don't even remember who won the Tony that year.
Was that the band's visit year?
No, was that Tootsie year?
We need to find out.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay, let me see what
It was
Ethan's.
2018.
Oh God, was it Santino?
Oh, I think you're right then.
Which, yeah, he deserved it more than him. Sorry.
We don't even need to speak on the Tootsie of it all.
Yeah,
But you
we
know
have
who was nominated for Tootsie, who we do love? Lily Cooper,
Lily
sister of
Cooper.
Eddie Cooper, who played the proprietor in this so very well. And that's how I'll end that. No, it was Tony Shalhoub. That's what I
Okay,
was tight. Yeah.
okay, it was
We
Tony
we
Shalhoub.
love Tony.
Yeah, Tony's good. I like Tony.
But no, for sure. I mean, Ethan's performance in that really should.
It,
I
it,
hate to.
it,
Yeah.
it should have gotten its own special Tony because I've never seen an actor become a sponge on stage. So it should have gotten like a John Cameron Mitchell style special Tony.
Yeah.
Tony for best sponge. The scene's great. But now we got to go to Something Just Broke, which is
Mm,
the most heartbreaking number.
yeah.
One of the sometimes most chilling songs. It finally gives you a point of view that isn't an attempted murderer.
You know what's weird? That of all the songs, I expected "Unworthy of Your Love" to get the most requests for like an early first listen.
Hmm.
Just because it's a sweet love song, you know what I mean? Even though it's not, but it is. This is the one that got the most interest in the last couple of days, leading up to the
Makes
cast
sense.
of people requesting that to be the release. And I was so curious as to why that is, but I think it's exactly why you said. It's because it's chilling, but it's also like it's special because it's been in the past like 20, 30 years of this show's iteration that it's been a part of it, and it kind of, like you said earlier, ties it all together.
Without it, the show's incomplete, and I'm shocked that the show existed at any point without it. Like, it is
Right.
that is appalling to me.
But that should also tell us that like art is constantly
Yes.
evolving. Even when something is so like, can you imagine if there was a song that Sondheim had written for like Into the Woods in the past like 10 years, and then it was like interjected in this like Christian Borle, Sarah Bareilles encore show, and then we were like, wait, that perfectly captures it. Wow. And it's like, yeah, like artists are always doing this. We're always like, creating and evolving. And I think that's what Sondheim got to do here is say,
Mhm.
like, I've got something else to say. I have something else to say that's perfect for this. And it is.
Yeah, and I also wanted to state, and I meant to say this earlier, Sondheim in his hat books called
Yes.
Assassins his most perfect musical in a way
Yes.
that it is executed in all the ways he wanted and doesn't want to change very much about it. So
Yeah.
this being the one he gets the seal of approval to, the adaptation that he really wanted, a new cast album in stone here.
Yeah.
Really, really does mean a lot more here. And
Mhm.
then we got Everybody's Got the Right again. And
Yeah.
scale of 1 to 10, how terrifying is it when they turn the guns on the audience?
Well,
Okay.
did you, because you did not get to see this.
I didn't.
Okay. Can I tell you a spoiler?
Yeah, I don't care. I don't think spoilers ruin anything.
Cool. As we know, the show was supposed to go up in 2020
Yes.
at Classic Stage Company. They were in rehearsals. We saw the clips of them, going through the book and all that stuff. Pandemic happened. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
Never heard of
And
it.
things happened in that time. Like the world, something broke again. And for real. And coming back into the they had to come back into rehearsal. They had to, they remounted the show essentially that they had already kind of put together, but with new eyes and souls, probably. Because there's a lot we all experience. So, anyways, all that to be said, the very end of this show, everyone's singing, and a lot of people felt like they were beating people over the head with it. Some people felt that way. I did not feel that way. I can understand some people's opinions. They projected the January 6th insurrection
Oh.
as the finale, which was a very, very pointed choice. I appreciated that choice because I wanted people to understand the reality of the piece and not contextualize it in like these characters. No, these are real people. Those
Yes.
people are still alive. Those people are being created. Those people are being groomed today. And it is a little people have said like too soon or come on, whatever, and I'm like, no, this is exactly what the show was always saying. So I appreciated it, even though it was very upsetting because again, those are real people
Right.
getting hurt, getting trampled and getting killed. So yeah, I just it was a bold choice. So I don't 100% remember that moment that you're speaking of so much as I do remember that imagery.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. So there you go.
What a choice. My
Yeah.
God. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
But there's this presidential seal at the top of the setting of the show that for this production at Classic Stage Company, and they projected it onto that for the final moments, and then of course like afterwards the cast kind of like bows in silence, and it was just
Jaw dropping. I
crazy.
can't imagine.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's incredible. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for all
Yeah.
this insight, Grace. Thank you for joining me for this. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed
I always
yourself
have
here.
fun. I love talking to you. I'm so appreciative that you were willing to have me on and to get to talk about this really, really great piece. And we both care so deeply for musical theater and the preservation of Sondheim
Yes.
that getting to be a part of this and also like getting to include you in this conversation means a lot to me. So thank you so much. And I hope that people are excited about the album as we are. And whatever.
I will say on my Discord for
Yeah.
patrons, that's all they're talking about. They're just talking about, they're like, I think they're having a group listen to it as we speak, where they're just going, I think that's
Stop.
literally what's happening, where they're just
That's
listening to
so
the album
cool.
together and talking to each other. It's pretty great.
That makes me really happy. And again, it's like I'm such a tiny, tiny cog in this wheel, but it has been incredible to watch the work that goes into preserving this type of thing. And watching the care like Matt Stein's producing of this album is so incredible to me. Like every person that has worked on this in that capacity of like mixing, engineering, being, like Katrina on flute, like there's just every single part of this is important. And so I am glad that we are all getting to enjoy it and that people are hyping it up.
Hell yeah. But you know what else we should hype up? You, Grace. In
Ew,
case people
gross.
don't know where God. In case people don't know where you are, they need
Well,
to
I
find
famously
you.
don't want everyone to know where I am.
What?
But
You know what? Drop a pin. I'll send it to everyone.
Drop a pin. First of all, I really, really appreciate that you've been sipping what beverage have you been sipping?
Just some caffeinated drink.
Just some caffeinated drink, in an adorable Tell Me on a Sunday mug, which is the podcast that I originated. I've got more episodes coming out because it's been stalled for a bit. We've been working on some things, as you can see. But yeah, that's my storytelling podcast. And you can actually, I think it's episode 3. You can listen to my episode with Ethan Slater, where we talk about how excited we are for Assassins in 2020. So it's pretty upsetting. But yeah, so you can listen to me there. You all, I finally actually need to talk about this on the show. You talked about my solo show, tell me on a Sunday,
To
let
Free
me
a
go back
Mockingbird.
to Free a Mockingbird. I will know my own show, and it means so much to me. I am working very hard to get that moving along, because I really appreciate being able to tell my stories, and I'm finding other ways to tell my stories, because I think that we all have stories, and if we can encourage each other to share more, I think bad things will happen less often, because we won't feel as afraid, and we won't feel so invisible, which I've felt for a very long time. So that's that on that. But you can always listen to me if you love Broadway news. You can listen to me on Broadway Radio Weekly, with my co-host Matt Timonini and Ashley Steves. It's a fantastic show where we recap all the news going on, so you don't have to like scroll through articles all the time. You can literally just plug in for 20 minutes a day and get all of the updates there. But and then you can follow my art. I've got art. I've got too much. This is why I don't like to talk about me, because I feel like I sound like a psycho infomercial and it makes no sense. You can
Grace,
just follow me.
I have literally like hired you, bought your art, unrelated. Like it is like almost a badge of honor that the people I surround myself have
Yeah.
Grace Aki's hanging in their like house.
Oh, it means the world. I know I say this, it sounds so silly. It actually means the world to me when I'll see like someone post like a selfie in their apartment, or like a TikTok of them talking about their dog, but I can see like a painting I did of that dog in the corner. Like I see it all the time now, because I'm so fortunate that so many people have invested in and cared like you in my art, that now I'm going to get to have a gallery showing in Brooklyn coming up, which I'm really, really thrilled and honored by. So thank you. Every time you can support an artist, this is just a general announcement. Shout that out. It costs you $0. Like even if you don't have the money to buy a piece, that transaction of like putting something out on social media being like, I liked this, actually does wonders for another person. So thank you always for investing in that. I hope that you feel reciprocal love,
Oh, of
because
course.
I'm so honored to know you, and I'm so excited that we get to do this again. And this all started with me being on the Waitress episode, which I've just learned is a very popular episode for you.
Yes, it is. One of the few things that I've learned from doing this podcast, guest
Yeah.
episodes don't tend to do as well as episodes with just me
Well,
and
yeah,
Andrew.
because you guys are the bread and butter. You guys are the home team. I mean, it makes sense.
With the exception of Grace Aki episodes, you're the only one that has penetrated the top 10.
I love penetration. On that note, if you can listen to our Spring Awakening episode, it's also great.
That one is good. That one's very horny. That episode is
We're never
obscenely
not.
horny.
We're never not.
If you don't mind me getting real,
Yes.
and I can cut this if you're uncomfortable with it. You do also have, I think, a GoFundMe up there to help you with legal fees, unless that is gone now.
No, it is up. I will say I did not feel, because you can keep this because it's just honest. My friends started that knowing a lot of the things that I am still currently going through.
Yes.
And of course, like you can read all about that on there. But so it wasn't started by me, because it comes from a place of shame for needing help. Famously, us women feel shame about literally everything.
Yeah.
So including like body hair, like there's just nothing that we don't have shame about. It's funny because half of my show is about pride. And then I talk about the fact that it's basically all based in shame. But yeah, that does exist. So I appreciate that you have highlighted it and talked about it, because I think it also speaks to like what is happening in the world of us learning about like narcissistic abuse and like our judicial system and the lack of care to domestic violence victims. So on that note, I guess that's all I should say. But yeah, there is one that is up about me that I've been so very fortunate to have the care and love of my friends for.
And if you are unable to purchase art in that way and you want to donate to Grace, who by all means will never say it herself, but is going through a fucking lot for no good reason, please donate whatever you can there. That would mean the world to me personally. Grace is not involved in that. It would mean the world to me if you would please donate there.
That's incredibly kind. Thank you.
All right, Grace. Anything else you want to say before we wrap this on up?
If you want to aggressively annoy me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever that is, you can follow me at It's Grace Aki. I'm so appreciative of everyone's involvement of all the things. Because if you like this episode and you like Assassins, like tag Broadway Records, tag me, like tag everybody, like tell everyone that you love it. If you don't like it, like keep that to yourself.
Yeah.
Like keep it to your. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't yuck
talk
anyone
about it.
else's yums.
That's right. No, but truly, like everything's up for criticism, especially art. And so, I'm always curious to hear. I love the honesty and the pulse of our community and our theater community, especially around something so perfect, like and incredible, like Sondheim's work.
Yeah.
So I think that that's part of it. But yeah, follow me everywhere, please. I'm always happy to get to know. I'm so excited the fact that I've learned so many people that are a part of your circle through social media. Like I have so many Twitter mutuals now that like if I saw them in person, I probably would not recognize them. But if they told me what their handle was, I would go, "Oh my gosh, you ate cheese yesterday. You had a grilled cheese yesterday, and it looked so good." I literally said to a woman out loud, and I think you saw this. There was a woman who came up to me who had bought my art before, which was so cool. And she was like, "Hi, my name's Sylvie," and I was like, "Oh, nice to meet you." And she was like, "I'm at blank, blank, blank." And I went, "Oh my God, happy birthday, Icarus. Your cat turned 10 yesterday." I said that out loud in a public space. So everything sticks. Don't think that I'm not watching you. I adore everybody. So thank you.
Also, you didn't highlight this as much. She got a great TikTok.
Oh God. It's just it's what's left over from my other platforms in my brain that I'm like, I'm not bold enough to put that anywhere else. So I'll just put it on a video platform of millions of people.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll pop up on my FYP out of nowhere, and
you're like, what?
Well, no, it'll be like my girlfriend, and you're just like,
Oh,
I can't
no.
believe how my boobs look in this top, and I'm like, they're usually her going to see Winnie the Pooh. I promise.
Oh my gosh, it's usually me going to see Winnie the Pooh. No, it's usually me like doing something fun in theater, and then sometimes something just broke, and I'm just like, well, I feel strange, and I'm sure other people do too. And I got a lot of messages that were like, yeah, when you turn 30, your boobs get weird, and I'm like, yeah, what's that about? So that's another conversation for another day.
Wait, will they? I got about 4 years left. Are they gonna get weird, Grace?
Yeah, they're gonna get nice and milky.
Finally, I can be a mommy milker.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, we'll see you next time on Musicals with Cheese. Thank you so much, Grace.
Thank you.
That.
Hey pal, feeling blue, don't know what to do. Hey pal, I mean you. Yeah. Come here and kill a president.